Welcome to It's a Woman's World, a show which discusses any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Here's today's moderator, Nadia Giordana.
Hello and welcome to It's a Woman's World. I'm Nadia Giordana and I will be moderating today's episode. It's all about love and romance. Tell me, what's the craziest thing you ever did in the name of love? Let me start by introducing our panelists. First of all, we have on the end here Dr. Susan Strauss.
Hi, Nadia. This will be a very interesting panel, I think.
I think so too. It's good to have you here today.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have Alli Naithani,
Hello.
who is our usual regular host on this program.
Glad to be in this seat today.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to do it the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Rashida Fisher.
Yes.
Oh, welcome, Rashida.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here with us today.
Indeed. It will be a great topic.
It is. And let me just start the ball rolling by talking about, I'll ask you a question, does true love exist? And if so, what is that? And then we'll just go on from there.
Who's going to start? Yes, I guess yes, I think true love exists. What is it is the clincher, because I think there's many different types of love, and I think you could have true love for a friend, for example. But I think what we're talking about today is romantic love. And I suppose it all depends how it is defined, and I'm not going to go there particularly, but I think that, yes, true love does exist. But I think you can love many people as a true love as well.
Well, that's another thought is, and I think true love morphs, changes as to what you expect from it in different decades. I can speak for that in different
Yes.
decades in a lifetime. And I also think that, yeah, you can love more than one person. I don't know about simultaneously. Some people say you can, but that's another
panel.
And what about, or Alli, what do you think about what is true love?
Yeah, wow, that's a question. I think as you've asked it, I think about it in many ways. So the love, like, absolutely towards, like, I'm married, so the love towards my husband, and how has that evolved and changed from the first moment I set eyes on him to where we are today? We just have been married for 20 years.
All right.
And so I think as you go through the experiences and that for me has been redefined over the years, definitely.
And don't you think the love that you feel for him now is different than the love you did when you were in the throes of first romance and lust and all of that?
Yes.
I think you mentioned it evolves. It does. It changes.
Yeah, it definitely changes.
Well, and I think society tends to taint our perception and our definition of love,
And media.
and media as well, with it needing to be this whirlwind, butterflies in your stomach, and when that subsides, then what is left, and is that constitute the real love that takes to maintain a long-term relationship, which is commitment, respect, and all of those kinds of things. So I think there are multiple elements that make up true love and sustainable love.
I had read that when we first fall in love or get that butterfly business, that the changes in the brain really mirror with the neurotransmitters addiction.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
that has to, and we would all go bonkers if we were like that for the whole relationship, for however long that exceeded.
Yeah.
And that has to die down, and for you to really be able to see the person you're in a relationship with for who they really are, rather than who you projected them to be in the throes of the romance and the butterfly.
And the addiction.
And the addiction
It is
sense.
like that, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like you say, when you start out in a relationship and it morphs and changes, the expectations that you have. Sometimes relationships end, and I think I read this recently, from unmet or unrealistic and unmet expectations.
Yes.
And I'll even add uncommunicated
Oh,
expectations.
yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right, because there's one, it's one thing to have an expectation, but it's another thing for your partner not to know that that is an expectation that you have. Many that move from being in a relationship a courtship, so to speak, to engagement and then marriage, there's this uncommunicated shift in expectations that the other partner is not aware of.
That's right.
And that can cause lots of conflict and hurt feelings.
Yeah, and it can go both ways.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, I think maintaining long-term relationships, love or otherwise, over a period of a lifetime, when we think about romance and marriage, that's a challenge in and of itself. What about transitional periods of relationships? Now, you're single.
Yep,
and you
in a
haven't-
long-term relationship.
You're in a long-term relationship, and most of your relationships you mentioned have been long-term relationships. I'm married, but divorced a couple of times. Oh. I must not have planned properly in the beginning, but I've noticed that those things have changed over time. And of course, my husband that I have now, he's a keeper, so I'm happy about that. We've been married for 22 years, I think it is.
Wonderful.
And so over time, don't those things change a little bit? And
I think absolutely. Each relationship you're in, ideally, you learn something about yourself and what your needs are and the kind of person that you want and need to be in a relationship with, right? We have these idealistic expectations, desires of what we think is a good partner for us, and that might not always be the case because it could be tainted with media, with fluff, with you know, lots of things, even family expectations about who we're supposed to be with, and it takes some knowing yourself and who you are to really find a good partner and someone that is equally as self-aware and can meet you in that relationship.
Yeah, and I think as you've said that also, you think about how much can you give to this person? How much do you start and stop? How much do you invest in it? And when things are hard, at the end of the day, do you sit back and say, well, I made this, if it's a marriage, for example, I made this commitment, and I need to make this person the best that they can be, even though I might be angry at them or frustrated with them. Sometimes having to put aside some things to think through that way for the best for them.
Yes.
do you think that marriage, the institution of marriage, helps to make you work a little bit harder during the tough times, or does that make much difference to people?
So I'm a believer in marriage, although I don't want to be married for myself. And my example is my parents. They've been married for all of my life, and I truly believe that they would be committed to each other regardless of a marriage certificate. And so I don't necessarily believe that the institution of marriage or the legality of marriage helps people stay committed, because we see our divorce rate is, you know, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And there are lots of reasons for that statistic.
So the other thing I've wondered about in regard to that question, and I've only been married, and I've never had another relationship with anybody else. My husband was my first relationship, and I married him. So I don't know, I really do not know what that's like. So the thing I think about, though, is if I wasn't married to him, would it have been a lot easier to leave, right? When there were problems? Or if we are in a, it's when you're married, you're bound by certain terms, right? So I've often thought about people who live together, and I've seen a particular couple that I know live together, had a house together, but then when there were problems, one person left, and it was there was a certain freedom about that I didn't think that if they were in a marriage, they would have had so much freedom to leave.
That's true. The house probably complicated it a little bit, since they had a house together.
But it was only in one person's name.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm
That
saying?
makes a difference.
So I will often have thought about this question and thought, does a marriage, because you have taken, whether it's the vows that matter to you as something as a personal statement, or the legal implications, the financial implications, does that make a difference, is my question. I don't
know for sure. I've been divorced twice.
Yeah.
Both times I thought going through the divorce was very difficult, very painful, and it's all those things that you identified that you look at, economics, et cetera, but you also look at the social aspects of it. It changes your life. It might change who your friends are. You wonder how people are feeling about you, especially I've been divorced twice. I've never lived with anybody, and I think, I'm only guessing, that I would feel perhaps less of a commitment living with somebody than being married to them. But I don't know, never having experienced that, I'm not sure. I thought divorce was hell. And I didn't, by that time, I maybe still love them, I don't know. I just didn't want to have anything to do with them. But it was extremely difficult. And then if you add children to it, and it's hard. And with the second divorce, my children were adults. It was still hard because I think, what am I doing to my kids, even though they're adults?
I see.
By divorcing their stepfather, who still stays in touch with them, and we've been divorced for 20 years. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever want to get married again. I think I'm afraid of it. I don't trust it. Maybe I don't trust me. Maybe that's a more accurate thing to say. I don't know that I trust my ability to select an individual that could be long-term, even though I'm in a relationship now, have been for a year. And I tell you, if 20 years ago when I went through that divorce, anybody would have told me you'd fall in love with somebody again and stay with them for a year, I would have thought, you are out of here, ever loving mine. There's no way. And yet here I am, and I didn't expect it. So to me, though, there's more of a commitment to marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think there is.
I think the social piece can't be underestimated.
I didn't think about that, the social piece, until you said it.
Yeah, because you're kind of ostracized, and then you become, when you're single, you become a threat. Because you're a single woman. If you try to hang out with some of your other friends, it's a threat, because then they think, well, my husband always thought she was this or that, and now look, he's looking at her. You become a threat because you're single all of a sudden.
It changes things.
It really does.
I do remember when I got divorced, that a gathering came up, and the friends didn't know who to ask, who to invite or what. But they were, it was, the 80s. People were pretty trendy, and they just ask us both and let us decide. And my ex-husband said, I don't want you to be there if you're going to bring a date. He said that to me. And I said, well, are you bringing a date? And he said, yes. And I said,
can't have it both ways.
So I let, in the end, I let him have the friends. And I went off and I made new friends.
It's another loss, is what it is.
It was a loss, yeah.
You lose the future with that person. You lose friends. And it's sort of like, well, I didn't want, if I wanted to bring somebody, that's okay, but I don't want to see him with somebody else.
And
I don't want him, but I don't want him to want somebody else.
And I could have done that. I must have been willing to give up the friends because I was independent enough. I could have said, well, then, tough if you don't want to see me there with a date. So I must not have really wanted to go.
It's hard, though.
Not.
It is. That whole social piece is
Yeah,
tough.
it is social.
And did you still love him at that point?
And, I probably did. Although I initiated the divorce and thought I didn't. In hindsight, I think counseling probably could have saved that marriage. Because years later, I say, wow, there's still that love piece that's there, even though I'm happily married now. I think your relationship, the ability to love and compartmentalize that love gets more intricate as you get older. So I think I did in one form or another, but it's complicated.
I think that speaks to our earlier question about true love and what is it.
What is it?
And that, Ali, that there are different types of love that you can experience for an individual. Romantic love is something very different than a familial love.
Yes.
You created a family with this person.
That's what I think
and
it
there is a
morphed into.
familiar love.
Yep.
I still care about your well-being.
Yeah.
I still
Yes,
care
yes.
about your health. I love you. I care about
That's
who
more
you
like
are and
different
how you
was
are.
true.
And
Absolutely.
then think about your first love. I mean, think about, I had read an article in the paper a couple years ago talking about all the high school reunions coming up and talking about people's first loves when they were in high school. And why does that first love, I know for me, my first love, I will always love him. He's got a place in my heart that nobody else will ever have. And so it's talking about that
It's
first
a form
love.
of puppy love, and it's kind of like that.
It's
but
strong.
But it that always stays there.
It's that first you know,
of
when we talk
everything.
about addiction, right, to
Yes.
your point earlier, when you talk about addiction, it's the first experience
Yes.
that drives all of the other desire to
That's a good point.
indulge.
It is.
And so that one always sticks with you.
And the old phrase, the first cut is the deepest, that first
Oh,
rejection
yeah.
where you really do feel love, and that is not returned and it's unrequited.
Yes.
That one lasts too.
I know the person I'm in a relationship with now is from another country, and he wants to move back there at some point. And so when you talk about true love, now we say we love each other, but part of me is saying, now listen here, you love me, but you're going to go live over halfway around the world? I don't know, is that love or not? And he says, well, come with me. Well, I don't want to go with. So well, how does that fit
What about
with true love?
long distance
No,
relationships?
I won't do it.
Because
How do you do that?
You know, that's some people say long distance relationships work as long as you see each other within a certain amount of regularity. I don't know if I could do it.
Well, doing it from California to Minnesota or Minnesota to New York is one thing, but doing it from the United States to another country when it's, I don't know, what, 8 or 9 miles by flight, that's a whole
Well, you
other
know,
thing.
I don't know if I could be in a long-term, long-distance relationship, but I understand that there are couples that spend significant amounts of time apart because of work, because of
Yes,
other
yes.
responsibilities, and that is a form of a long-distance relationship because you're not with each other day in and
Yeah.
day out. And so, you know, there are ways that you can maintain connection and feel close to one another, whether there's physical distance and proximity or not. I don't know. I don't know if I've never been in a long-term or long-distance relationship,
I haven't
so I can't say. But hypothetically,
And that I feel-
it's a thing.
That, what you're talking about, to me, has a little bit different context with it than somebody's just moving away, period. It's not for just a job and I'll be back someday. It's toodaloo.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, is a true love. Whatever that is, like you
Right.
say, I don't know.
Well, I have a question now. I asked the audience at the very beginning of the
Yes.
show, what was the craziest, funniest, stupidest thing you ever did in the name of love? And I have two very short stories to tell. And the first story is about, and it's not about me. It really wasn't me. This is a friend.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
But this is before the days that we even had the term stalking. And my husband that I divorced years ago, we were going on a cruise with another couple, and I'll say a fifth wheel. This was a friend of my husband or my fiance at the time, and the other man there. This was a friend of theirs who booked himself on the cruise, was coming with us, but he didn't want to bring his girlfriend. So he didn't tell her about this. He wanted to be, he was questioning the relationship. He felt like she was smothering him and all those things. And we didn't care, and he was friends with guys. So anyway, so the five of us go on this cruise, and lo and behold, the girl had found out.
Oh.
Oh no.
And booked herself on the cruise.
Oh, smart woman.
And there we were at the dinner table that night, and she walks by and, oh my, you know, the whole thing.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
tell you, that was a very interesting
Yes.
cruise.
Was he with anybody else on
No,
that cruise? No.
no, he
So did
was-
they hook up on that cruise or not?
It
sure
kind of
they
worked out
did.
that they
I'm
did.
sure
he
they
was
connected.
stuck in that. He wasn't ready to end that relationship. Then the most romantic thing I ever did in the name of love. This one is me. All I can say about that is it involves the island of Kauai and a hopefully deserted beach and the hour of midnight. That's a nice memory.
Yes, and we can kind of put our own image as
You
to
can,
what that
yeah,
was.
whatever you think you want. What about you guys? Or somebody you know?
You know, I think it's all of the stories that I've heard have been everything from stalking, right, in the name of love. Currently, that's on social media, right? You peruse through people's profiles
Does that
and
count?
things like that. I think so.
I think it does,
I
yeah.
think so. It's a part of someone's personality, you know, and their identity that you are keeping tabs on. But just, you know, gift giving, finding different ways, extravagant ways to express love and care are always the most where you kind of go outside of yourself.
Has social media changed
I think
love in
social media
today's
changes
world?
the way that you communicate about love, the way that you express your commitment to someone, changing your status on social
Oh,
media
yes.
sites and things
That's
like that
big.
as a validation
Yeah.
of the relationship.
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, definitely technology and social media has changed the way that we communicate relationships to one another.
I think it has. I think it has. And let's see what are some of the other things that we're thinking about. Why are people today getting married later? And maybe it goes hand in hand with that. When I was 15 years old, my father didn't let me date till I was 16, but when I was 15-year-old, other 15-year-olds were dating, going in a car and going out on formal dates. The kids today, they're hanging out together in groups, am I right about that?
Yes.
And they're marrying later. What's the change there?
Well, I think for sure for women, right, the career aspect.
Yes.
And the world is just, it's so different now that, of course, women have careers and have education. And so I think, number one, that. And I think there's also less fear about having a baby for a woman later in life.
Yeah.
There was always a pressure, I feel like, historically to say, oh, you have to have a baby by the time you're this age.
Yeah.
But we see such a difference in that now. So I think those are some of the reasons.
And
I
there
do
used
too.
to be
I
a
agree with you.
pressure that you were an old maid if you weren't married by
Right.
the time
Yeah.
you were 30.
I think too that so many kids today have seen their parents go through divorces, and they've seen what an awful marriage can be, and I think many of them are maybe someday, but I'm not in any hurry to do it. I think
Right.
that's another element, not
Yeah.
the only thing, but I think it plays a role. And I also think that, I'm using the word kids, at my age everybody's a kid, but I think that from what I understand of the things that I've read, that young people in their 20s are more immature than what, for example, Nadia, you and I were when we were in our 20s. You know, the whole cortex of their brain seems to be slower, and a lot of them are still living at home in their basement of their parents. They've not matured. What are they saying now? You're really not mature until you're 25, and this whole adolescent thing is, yeah, it takes much longer. I think that plays a
They
role.
say that,
immaturity.
yeah.
Well, you know, kids, young people, we have grown up in a totally different society.
That's right.
There's so much more to contend with even as you grow and mature than earlier generations. I also think society was different, and there's a lot more familial support in marriages, even when they happen very early on, than perhaps is happening now, that you are expected there to be a real distinct separation between your family, you, husband, wife, children, than before, where there was an expectation that you are still a part of a family that is going to help you learn how to be in a marriage, in a relationship that perhaps is not there anymore. Additionally, I think the financial piece. There are so many people that are just independent in and of themselves, and they don't mind sharing space, sharing finances, but that's not a motivating factor for entering into a marriage, a legally binding marriage. So, and I guess that just speaks to my point that people can be in healthy, loving relationships without the institution of marriage. And
I think you're right.
So-
I totally agree with you. And I think young people are saying, why don't we just live together? Who says we have to get married? There's more acceptance of that.
Yes.
I think religion, if we get into some of the religious aspects, fewer and fewer people align themselves with a religion anymore. And very often it was, well, you don't live with anybody, you don't have sex with anybody
Yeah.
until you're married.
Yes.
And you certainly don't have a baby unless you're married.
Right.
And all of those social mores
Right.
have changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the only thing is I hear that. The only thing that's, and again, very limited experiences I've shared. I've only had a relationship with my husband, but I think that if I were to live with somebody and have a child, I would want some of the formalities of marriage. I just
Yes.
feel like
I feel the same
could
way.
do. I could
do too.
not. Something about that for me. It's the responsibility. It's the you're in this with me,
I
and
agree.
you took
And
that
once
next
there are
step.
children.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I were to
that
have
makes a
child,
difference. Yeah.
I think that would be something really important to me.
It would
Yeah.
to me as well.
Yeah.
And yet you hear of people, well, like Sam Shepard just died.
Oh,
He and
yeah.
Jessica Lange had been
They were
together
never
for over
married.
years.
Yeah.
They were never
Yeah.
married.
Although
raised
they
the
did have
children.
children.
They did have
They
children,
did.
yes. And there's been some other celebrities too. Kate Hudson's mom, what's
Goldie
her?
Hawn.
Goldie Hawn and
Yes.
Kurt Russell.
yeah. Now they've been together for umpteen years
Yes.
too, and have had
A
children.
lifetime.
And yeah, I'm like you. I would want
Would
that
you?
as well.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if there weren't children and you were talking about whether or not you wanted to be married or not in this day and age, I don't think I would be all that hung up on the certificate of marriage if it didn't involve children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Even I don't want to be married. If children were to enter the picture, I would definitely want my relationship to look a little bit more traditional.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and being at my age, in the retirement age, if I should happen to be, and I want to stay married and happily married, but if I were facing whether or not I would be dating or marrying at this point in my life, I would probably choose a long-term relationship and not marriage, because I wouldn't be having more children, so it wouldn't make sense to me to complicate life with all of that part of it. I don't think that would be important to me now.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. Having been divorced twice, I'm scared to death to get married again. And at this age, I don't think I would want to either.
And let's see, what other things can we talk about? We only have a short period of time. Has anybody here had any experience with polygamy or does that fit into our society? To me, it just seems so out in left field that it doesn't fit into my thinking about marriage.
I think serial monogamy, we hear about serial monogamy maybe more so than polygamy.
Yeah.
And I think people engage in that, which to me seems more ethical and moral for some reason. If you're in a monogamous relationship, you break up, you get into another monogamous relationship. That's just my viewpoint. Polygamy, I can't even imagine.
I can't
that.
either.
So polygamy meaning multiple like spouses
wives
or
or
wives, and
husbands, I
there's
suppose.
polyamory, right? Which is
Right.
seeing different people and being okay and having an open relationship, right?
Yes.
So defining that. So for me, I just would say, I know it's out. You know, people have do this. I just cannot imagine that for myself. I'm too much of a jealous person.
Oh,
I feel like
I am too.
Definitely possessive.
Yes.
Well, we're running out of time, but this has been definitely a very fascinating subject, and I think on that last topic that we almost started talking about, we could have a whole another program.
Yes.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, ladies, for participating in the discussion today.
It was
And
fun.
we'll see you all next time on It's a Woman's World.